Love makes a family is like my mantra for my life and for my family. Love is actions, it's feelings, it's time spent, it's memories made with those people closest to you. And those people don't have to look like you. They don't have to have the same skin color, ethnicity, religion, culture. It is the connections that you build together that make you a family. My children are Caucasian. I'm African American. Their dad is African American. Their stepdad is African American. And when Michelle asked us, did this matter to us? It did not. When I saw them as my children. It didn't matter to me that was their skin tone. What mattered to me was that I was their mother, and he is their father, and my husband is their stepfather. I can remember the day like yesterday. I was at work. I was assistant principal at Rocky River Elementary School in Concord, and I was leading a meeting, and I got the call from my social worker saying, we have a placement in Gastonia. Can you come? And I was like, yes. We go home, we grab all the car seats, because when you're a foster parent, you don't know what you're going to get. So you don't know if you're going to need a infant carrier, a high back booster, a booster. You don't know. So we grabbed them all. And when we got to the social worker's office is when I met my sons, Landon and Liam. Landon was 2, he had just turned 2. Liam was 11 months old, and he had just got out of the hospital. And they handed my ex-husband my son Landon, and he laid his little head on his shoulder. And they handed me Liam, and Liam nuzzled under my neck, and that's where he's lived ever since. The next day was a whirlwind. We met their bio mother, which I didn't know that at the time, but I'm glad that I did. We met their bio mom to do like a medical health assessment that they do to see like, where are the children? Where are they? I was actually able to take some great pictures of her with them that I actually printed later for them to have once they get older. But I saw that she was pregnant. And so I was like, oh, okay. I asked the social worker, I said, do y'all have a placement already for this child? She was like, probably not. I said, okay. I said, well, if you can't find placement for the baby to keep your children together, we would love to take her in. Lo and behold, we have our sons. We're doing a routine. They do have older siblings, so for a while there were older sibling visits. And then we get the call on my son's first birthday, on my youngest son's first birthday, that, hey, the baby was born, and we would love for her to come home with you. And so we went to the hospital, and I don't know what I thought a NICU would look like, because on TV you see like babies together in a NICU with the nurses going back and forth, but that was not our experience. When we arrived, she was in a little room by herself in a little bouncy chair, and she was sleeping. She had on a cute little pink shirt with a kitty cat on it. And the nurse was like, if you can just get her to eat twice, she can go home today. And I was like, bet, I got it. Okay. So I sent my ex-husband to the Babies R Us when they existed. He came back with like 4 different bottles. We tried one after the other. We finally found the sweet spot, and she went home with us. And they've been with us ever since. Now, has it had its ups and downs? Most definitely, because I can tell you, I loved them the day I met them. Like, that's just my heart. That's why I was an educator, because I love children and helping children. And so, the uneasiness of, are they going back? Are they staying? And, you don't wish any ill will on any person. Like, I wanted their mother to get well. I went over and beyond. I would send pictures every week to the social worker. I would go to the visitations. I could even tell my children someday that, the last time I saw her face to face, she told me thank you. She said, thank you for taking care of my children. It's rough right now, but thank you. And I've told them that story now that they've asked about her as they've gotten older. And, it gives them a little bit of a smile. Like, she said thank you. Because how many children in this situation get to hear that about their biological parents' last words to their current parent? In the beginning, my children came with the clothing on their backs. And even though we've had like furniture from all ages, because we had cribs and bunk beds, we didn't have clothes because we didn't know. So at that time, I had received a new social worker because Michelle was our intake. And she was able to go back to CHS and their donors and get us gift cards to buy clothing for the children. She helped me figure out WIC because that was a journey. Diapers, thank you, Lord, because I had 3 kids in diapers. And so, just being there, especially when we were trying to figure out the needs of my oldest son, I would call a social worker and at like 8 o'clock and say, I'm so sorry. I know you're probably at home with your family, but this is what's happened and I don't know what to do and I need some help. And I needed that. And I think even if I had my own biological children at that time with what I was experiencing, I wouldn't have had anyone to call to say, hey, I don't know what to do. Do you have any recommendations? Some places I can go, somebody that I can talk to. And so it was really helpful. It was like they were our third parent in our little triad, because they were helping us navigate systems we just didn't know how to navigate, but also ensuring that we had what we needed so we can do what was best for the children. Now, as they're getting older, we have those conversations about why do some people look at us? Why do some people ask mommy random questions while we're together? Or why do people just out of blue come up to say, I'm so glad that you're a foster parent. Thank you for what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. Because our family doesn't look alike, that's what you assume, but there has got to be a different approach. And so, one of my advocacy platforms, personally and professionally, is shining a light on transracial adoption, because lots of times we see transracial adoption in a different way, where you might see a Caucasian family with a African American child or a Latinx child or a mixed race child, but rarely do I see it where I'm an African American parent with white children. And, there are battles I didn't know I was going to have to fight. There are situations that my children are going to have words for. But as I've gotten older, as I've learned more as a parent, as I've navigated more in education, I just think it just comes from a place of people not knowing what to say because it doesn't look like what they're used to. Because I've got it from both sides. I've had African American people say, oh, you couldn't pick the African American children? And I'll say, I didn't pick these children. God chose them for me. And to me, it doesn't matter their race, because it's the love that we share amongst each other. And so I even have a shirt that says love makes the family. One thing I hope to break is that, for one, we do know that African American children are overrepresented in foster care. And however, there are not a lot of as many families of that same ethnic or racial group for those children. And so finding a way to tap into communities to be there for the children, because I had a 8-year-old foster daughter. I foster beyond adopted my 3 before I moved to Greensboro. And one thing she said to me that has always stuck with me was like, yeah, I like you as my foster mom, but I didn't sign up to have white siblings. And, she's 8 years old. And I can only think, in her 8-year-old brain, going to school, being with peers, not being with her home family, that's something that meant something to her. To me at the time, I'm just like, hey, I'm glad you're here. But that's something that she felt, and she felt powerfully enough to tell me that. And so I do wish we had more foster families that represented the children who were in care, who needed a place to go. Another stigma about transracial adoption is that it is all the Caucasian or white people adopting all these children of color. That is not the case, and in some instances, that's the only family that these children have at the time. It's not that we don't want them to go back to their home families, because that's what we want, right? We want children to be with their families. However, in some situations, it's just not appropriate. It's not safe. And the adults or their caregivers, have challenges that they have to overcome themselves. And so I just want people to see that color should not dictate your family dynamic. It should be the love you have, the humanity you have, the kindness you have in your heart for children in our community, because every child deserves a family. I mean, they do. I truly believe that every child deserves a family. And whether it's the family they were born into or a family that they fall into, like my little crew, they deserve it. And us as a community, we should be there and show up for them.